All right. Hello, hello. Welcome as everyone is starting to join us here for our webinar today. Good to see some familiar faces and some new ones. Justin, good to see you again, my friend. And Nick and Scott and others who I have met and some who I haven't. So I'm excited to see all of you and have you here and meet some of you. Excited for our session today. And if you can, I always love to see faces. If you can share your screen, I'd love to see that because it helps us be engaged and helps me feel like I'm talking to real people instead of just names on a screen. It's nice. Thank you, Prashant.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Glad to have you here. So I'm going to give people just a couple more minutes. People seem to kind of stream in just a few minutes after a lot of these events. So we'll get started officially here in a couple minutes, but as we connect here, I'm just curious to hear from maybe a couple people and share in the chat, or if you want to unmute for a second, like where are you joining us from and what are you most wanting to get out of our session today? What are you trying to accomplish here in your career? So Prashant, you were saying hi. You mind just kind of saying hello and tell us where you're at and what you're trying to accomplish here today?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for organizing this, first of all. So I've been an engineer in the past. I'm not an engineer anymore. I'm a computer scientist. I was employed at Amazon as a senior applied scientist.
Mm-hmm.
And I got affected by the layoffs recently.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm still looking for a job, but I wanted to I heard about your session from a friend, and I wanted to see, because this is a moment where I can steer my career to a different direction as well, because I have some vague thoughts, but I still want to see what I can get out of this session. So
Absolutely.
I want to hear diverse perspectives from
Okay.
you and others if possible.
Very good. I certainly hope some of the things we're going to talk about here today are going to be helpful for you. And I apologize for getting caught that you got caught up in the layoffs and everything, some of the harsh realities of the world these days. But
Right.
I love your attitude in trying to say, hey, you can use this as an opportunity to look forward to what you want to do next in your career and continue to launch forward, which is fantastic. So thanks so much for sharing that.
Yep.
All right, so we've got we'll probably have a few more people streaming in here, but I'm going to go ahead and get started, and we'll really get rolling here. So, as you know, the theme of this is finding ways to upgrade your careers, and pure engineers or not. I use the word engineering, but anyone in the technology world. I generally serve, but we're really thinking about like, how do we move from kind of maybe if you feel like you're barely making it or barely surviving to, I want to think about how do we really succeed in a way that we feel like we're thriving. And I'm going to use a tool I call the Next Level Engineering Career Formula to do this. Now, as we engage throughout our session today, we're going to do something I call quick chat. Really, it's just a way for us to kind of connect and engage a little bit using the chat function here on Zoom. What I'll do is I'll ask a question, and I want you to type your answer into the chat box, but don't press enter until I do a countdown. So I'll do a 3, 2, 1 countdown. And what that does is then everyone's responses kind of come in simultaneously. So I'm curious just to kind of start off, where are you joining us from? It's always interesting to see where people are at across the country, sometimes across the world. So where are you joining us from? Type in your answer into the chat box, and then we'll do a countdown in 3, 2, 1, go. Denver, Santa Cruz, Sammamish near Seattle. In Jordan, welcome. Fort Worth, Texas. Hey, Scott, good to see you. New York, New Jersey, Toronto, kind of from all over. Okay, great. So a few international and from coast to coast here in the US. So excellent. So excited to have all of you, no matter where you're joining us from. Always fun to see that. And we'll use this feature a few times as we move through our session day. For anyone who hasn't met me, just a little bit about me. I actually need to update this picture because this is when we brought our third child home. We actually just had our fourth child about a month and a half ago. So we've got a new little one keeping us up at night these days. But so I said sooner before, it is 4 now. and I didn't update this. So my apologies. But I founded More Than Engineering about 3.5 years ago, doing this work in leadership and career development. My technical background of mechanical, software, manufacturing, and engineering leadership work. I like getting outside. Like many people across the U.S., I got into pickleball the last couple of years and enjoying that, having some fun with it. But it really, today we're going to be focused on how do we create careers that we love, and I hope that this is helpful for you. And so as we start off, I want to tell you a quick story about one of the first people I ever got to work with. So Jay was having a hard time. He was an international student. He actually graduated as an international student in 2019, but for a long time, for months after he had graduated, he couldn't work legally in the US because of some visa issues. There were some paperwork issues that didn't get filed, and he was having a hard time. And then this was about February 2020 that he was finally authorized to work. He started getting interviews and other opportunities. He was a master's degree in engineering, but then the pandemic hit, and all those opportunities kind of shut down. And just as a note, if you can, make sure you're muted here. So the pandemic hits, and suddenly, he's got a few interviews set up. All those are gone, and he's just struggling all the time. He's dealing with crippling student loans, and in the end, he's married, and he actually was working minimum wage at a gas station as a master's in mechanical engineering, trying to make ends meet and just take care of his family and his wife. So fast forward a few months later, we worked together. He ends up getting 3 job offers, thriving. When we were working together, he said he'd put together a vision board, and he had a dream car on there. And then I talked to him later, and he said, yeah, I asked him, hey, did you ever buy that car that you were looking for after he landed a job? He's like, yeah, I did. And even once he landed his new job, he got a promotion in his first 8 months of being there, and it just continued success because of the ways that he approached his job search differently, and his continued career growth as he continued to build on those skills. So it's just one example, and you may be much further along in your career compared to Jay, but the point here is I want to consider, where are you in your career? So maybe down there in that level 2 is kind of that surviving area. Maybe for those who are unemployed right now, they might even be down at level 1, like no money's coming in, kind of hard, kind of feel overlooked, unemployed. That level 2 is maybe kind of feeling like, okay, I'm doing work that I don't like. This is probably where Jay was at. He was doing work that was obligatory, working minimum wage at a gas station, just barely surviving, not in a great spot. Where I see a lot of people in their careers is kind of that level 3. Sometimes they're kind of opportunistic. They're letting their careers happen to them. They say, hey, this thing came along, I'll take it, I work it. But at some point they realize that they're getting paid okay, like things are okay, but they're kind of disengaged, not really necessarily loving where they're at in the direction that they're headed, right?
It's raining. So much.
And then the line here is kind of the flip for me, where I see is kind of a tipping point to really getting to that thriving mode, where maybe we can get to be really intentional in how we approach our careers and get purposeful growth, and eventually lead us to an opportunity over the course of our lives to really have impact beyond ourselves, and really feel like we have an opportunity to do our life's work. And so I'm just curious where you feel like you're at in your career. So I'm going to do another one of these quick chats. Reminder, type your answer into the chat box, but don't press enter until I do a countdown. I'm going to go back to that slide, and I want you to tell me, where do you find yourself in your career as it stands today? Which level? So you can just make it easy and type the number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and let me know, where do you feel like you are right now? So look at that, just type the number in, and then go ahead and do 3, 2, 1, enter. So I'm seeing some people are at 4. That's excellent. Some people are at 1. Now I saw 1 or 2 because of layoffs. Some people at 3. Okay. The fact that I see a lot of 4s is fantastic. I'm excited for you. It's a great place to be and continue to build upon. And no matter where you're at, like I want to say, hey, how can we keep moving towards at least moving up on the ladder, if not getting on the positive end, 4 or 5. So this is excellent. So it's good just to kind of be aware of that and then think, what do I need to do to move forward next? And so my promise as we move forward today is I want to help you have some clear actions and adjustments that you need to make an intentional career transition. Intentionality, being intentional is such a key word for me in the work that I do. Or if you want to upgrade your career in some form or fashion, I'm going to do that by teaching you the next level career engineering formula that you can apply right now. And I hope that this feels like a different kind of webinar. I do have an opportunity for a few people to work with me, directly one-on-one. But whether or not you choose to do that, I hope that you will get value out of what we talk about today. So hopefully everyone's ready to go. If you're ready, type type yes into the chat. I'm going to take a quick drink. And we're going to get started. All right, let's go. So the next level engineering career formula, we're going to build this up over the course of our presentation today. And like any solid building that you might be building, you need to start with a strong foundation. Okay. So as we move forward here, we're going to build this up from the ground up. So the foundation pieces and things that are inside of this, I think of things like positive mindsets, how we think about this opportunity and situation that we're in. What are we clear on where we want to go? This is where that word intentionality really comes into play. Where do we want to go and why, kind of a thing. And then personal branding is more about our ability to communicate who we are and the value that we deliver, so we can connect that with what other people are trying to accomplish. Especially when we're talking about employment opportunities, we need to be able to connect the value that we bring and how we can bring that value to others, right? So think about why do I say foundation? Well, think about what happens without a foundation. You don't have to be a great civil engineer to know that any building that doesn't have a great foundation is not going to stand up over the test of time, and it's going to have some issues. So what I see about this in our careers, though, is that many people, if they lack this foundation, sometimes their driving motivation is actually fear, right? Maybe they have beliefs in themselves that they aren't good enough. They struggle with mindsets about themselves and beliefs about themselves that are not serving them. They have a hard time clearly communicating their value that they can bring. And what really makes me sad is sometimes people get so frustrated with the opportunity that they stop trying. They get so apathetic that they just stop trying. So I'm just curious for you, if any of that feels familiar to where you're at now or where you have been at the past. Just type yes in the chat. I'm curious if you've ever had those feelings at times, right? But on the flip side, if we can create a strong foundation for our careers, then we can have those strong mindsets, right? We can see the challenges that we face. Just like we had Prashant earlier was talking about, hey, you got laid off, but he sees this as an opportunity to still be moving forward and have new opportunities in his career, which is fantastic, right? You see these challenges as opportunities to grow. We can have clarity in where we're headed and why, right? And have more confidence in our path and have a personal brand that we really resonate with that also clearly communicates who we are and the value that we deliver. So some questions that you might think about asking yourself if you're curious, like, hey, where's my foundation right now, are things like this. Do I have the confidence to make this career shift that I'm thinking about making? Do I really believe in myself that I can do this? What are the most important things to me as I move towards a new role? And I'd say towards, because sometimes when people are trying to make career shifts, they're so focused on what they're moving away from instead of moving towards. Like, do you really know what you want to move towards as you think about taking the next step in your career, right? Can you answer that question? What are my greatest skills, my strengths, and my passions that could provide unique value to a potential employer? Can you identify those and communicate those? And am I willing to do what it takes, right? Whatever it takes, and get out of my comfort zone as I move through this process. So can you answer these questions, right? You don't need to tell me that right now, but it's a good kind of very quick gut check to say, hey, where is my foundation? If the answer is yes, fantastic. You know, we can move on beyond the foundation, perhaps. If no, then maybe there's some work to be done. And like I said, there's kind of three main areas: our mindset, personal branding, career clarity. I want to just dive one level deeper into this idea of career clarity just for a moment and give you a few different ways to think about this, because sometimes people get the wrong idea about what career clarity is, thinking that perhaps it's a 10, 20-year plan and everything's going to be mapped out step by step by step by step. That's not what I'm talking about. More what I'd compare it to is many people, what this is maybe for mechanical engineers, you might design physical prototypes. For those in software, they might design MVPs, small prototypes of things that you're creating as you're iterating through things. Whatever a prototype looks like for you, that's what I like to think about, the different iterations that we take in our career. Sometimes we're just exploring something, and maybe it's more like almost a very simplified scientific method, where we think about the next stage or opportunity in our career. We have a hypothesis. Hey, maybe this is something I want to try. Maybe for some people, it's moving from individual contributor to leader. Maybe it's trying a new function to get into working with more customer facing work. Maybe for some people, it's considering an industry shift and applying skills in a different industry. I mean, it can be so many different things, but we have this hypothesis, this idea, and then we need to run an experiment, which could be trying to find a new job, but it also could be, hey, how do I take on a little side project in my community or on my own, or maybe within my company? You don't always have to make a huge shift. And then you kind of collect the data, you analyze, say, hey, how is this working? Am I enjoying this? Is this moving the needle for me in the skills that I'm growing and the people that I'm meeting and the satisfaction I'm getting out of this experience, right? So that's one way to think about it. It's sort of this prototype iteration. As we continue to iterate through our careers, it never really stops. Right. Another couple of analogies or metaphors I might think about in terms of career clarity is just like, what's the North Star, right? How do you identify the things that are important to you, again, that you want to move towards? And you're going to ebb and flow through that, but you keep coming back to that North Star and the direction that you're pointed, right? Rather than the perfect path and every single step laid out. The other metaphor here is that of a filter, in considering these things that are important to you, and as different opportunities or situations or thoughts come to you as potential areas or directions you could go, you can put that through a filter and say, hey, does that meet the criteria, the things that are really important to me, right? If so, let's continue forward. It passes the filter. If not, then let's stop it right now, right? And I don't need to waste any more time with this because it hit the filter. The filter did its job. So I want each of you to do a very quick activity around this. Okay, so get out a piece of paper, a notebook, whatever you have to write with. I would prefer to do this analog, sticky notes, whatever. And we're going to take 60 seconds here, not too long, but just 60 seconds. And I want you to write about, for you, what are the non-negotiables, the things that are really important to you, those things that you're moving towards in your career as you think about a next step? What are the things as you think about taking the next step that you must have? Okay. And a bonus would be to say why they are so important to you, to tap into an even greater piece of intrinsic motivation. And then the invitation after this is to use these ideas as your intention as you move through towards the next opportunity. So I'm going to give you 60 seconds here, and just take this time of quiet here. So I'm going to put up a timer here and give you 60 seconds of quiet. Okay. I don't usually get 60 seconds of quiet in many webinars, but I hope that that was a helpful time. And I know it was a very brief time of reflection. If you need more time, I hope you take it soon, and see if you can, work on this a little bit more, because that clarity can be a driving force for the actions that you take as you move forward. Okay. So we've built up this foundation a little bit, and we're going to go to the next stage of our career formula and think about strategy. Okay. On top of the foundation, we want to build a strategy, and the things in terms of a career strategy, I think about making career transitions are things like strategic networking and connecting with people. What do we need to do on LinkedIn and great resumes? And the strategy is a lot of times where people start when they're thinking about making career transitions, but now we see how the strong foundation can actually fuel a more effective strategy. But I want you to think about, again, ask this question: what happens without a great strategy? Well, what it does is it actually leads to inconclusive results. Even if you have all the skills and everything that you need to be successful, if you're going about it the wrong way or the same as everyone else, it could lead to inconclusive results. So I want to illustrate this by telling kind of a fun story. The story comes from an old naval story. So in the early 1800s, in naval warfare, the prevailing tactics at the time were two opposing fleets to stay in parallel lines, cross each other, and just fire broadsides at each other through their cannons, right? So pretty simply, whoever had the biggest ships and the most cannons was going to win, right? Because they're right next to each other. It wasn't that hard to hit, wasn't that hard to aim. And so it didn't matter as much how quickly they could turn things around or how well trained they were. But there was a British admiral by the name of Horatio Nelson who had a problem at a battle called the Battle of Trafalgar. He realized that his fleet was completely outnumbered by a combined armada of French and Spanish ships that Napoleon had ordered to disrupt British commerce at the time. The British fleet was the best trained, and he knew that. But unless he changed tactics and his strategy, he knew he was going to lose because he was just so vastly outnumbered. Okay. And so this image behind here actually shows kind of what happened. Instead of going parallel to their opponents, he actually split up his fleet into two lines and went perpendicular to the combined Franco-Spanish armada. And he judged that the Franco-Spanish armada would have a harder time compensating for what would happen because they weren't used to this compared to his better trained fleet. And he was actually proved right. In the end, because he did things in a different way, the French and Spanish lost 22 ships that day, okay, which was about 2/3 of their fleet, and the British didn't lose a single ship. Okay, so good and different strategy leads to good and different results. And so we can do the same thing here in our careers and think about how can we approach things in a way that turns these challenges and opportunities, allows us to do things differently than other people, thus getting different and better results, right? Because we don't want to be the same. We want to stand out and do things differently, right? And gives you the tools to succeed. So another one of these quick chats, I'm curious, when it comes to, maybe landing a new career opportunity, what do you think is the average number of applications that are submitted for a corporate job posting? So go ahead and type it into the chat. Don't press enter yet until I do a countdown. But what do you think is the average number of people, if you were to apply for a job, how many people on average might you be kind of competing against, right? So type in a number, whatever you think. And then we'll do a countdown in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. Seeing anything from 23 to 1,500, 35,000. Wow. And 100, a few 100s, give or take. And any of these numbers could be true. Could be dozens, could be hundreds, could be thousands. And it obviously depends on what role and what company and how competitive that particular thing is. But on average, across corporate job postings, each opening attracts about 250 resumes or applications, okay? And so if you think about on average, about 5 people might get an interview. So that's about a 2% chance of getting an interview and less than 0.5% chance of getting the job, right? And that's if everything's equal. So you think about if you're just playing the pure numbers game, you'd have to put in about 250 applications. And I see people who have put in way more who still don't have a job. But we want to shift things and see what I see on the flip side is I see people who put in way less and get multiple job opportunities. Okay. You know, maybe you put in 250 applications. If you have, you know, good for you, I guess. But it's not an approach that I would want to take. And I would call this a bad career strategy because it's probably what most people are doing. Okay. So we don't want to just be the ones going parallel, firing broadsides. We want to switch it up and go perpendicular and get different results here. So what I see a lot of people do, because it's easier, there's less resistance here, is to go searching on LinkedIn and Indeed and other job boards for hours and hours. They apply. They love the easy apply button because they think that's going to be magical, right? And then they hope for the best. They hope that someone's going to call them back or reach out. Okay. And then maybe they might go one extra level, find a recruiter in a company that they applied to and say, hey, I applied for this job. I'm excited to work with you. Please give me a job, kind of a thing. But unsurprisingly, they get a pretty low response. But the funny thing is they, even though they're getting little response, they keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And this reminds me of the quote that's attributed to Albert Einstein, which is that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, okay? But if you do the same thing, you're actually going to get the same results most likely. And so instead, we want to switch things up. And this is just one example of what I would consider a good or better career strategy to do things a little bit differently, is to leverage that foundational work that you've done, that clarified personal brand. You can certainly work to optimize your LinkedIn profile and resume and your approach to those, absolutely. Then instead of just applying to a bunch of jobs, identify companies you're interested in working for that align with your purpose and values. So maybe connect with that career clarity piece, okay? And then instead of just applying, proactively reach out to people in those companies seeking for informational interviews to build relationships rather than just asking for a job, okay? You're not just trying to get something out of them, you're trying to connect with a person, right? Build those relationships, gain people who can, you know, like you or are willing to vouch for you, respect you, and are willing to be advocates for you, which actually will then lead to more opportunities in interviews and give you a better chance of refreshing your career. An opportunity that truly suits you is more aligned and a little bit better. So that's just one approach of many that changes how most people do things that I think and I've found to be quite effective, right? All right, so going back to our engineering career formula. So we've gone from foundation, we built on that foundation of strategy. Now when the opportunities arise, we need to execute. And these execution opportunities, I think when it comes to career opportunities are things like, hey, we need to interview well and we need to negotiate well. Because if you have an interview, the last thing you want to do is waste that opportunity because you were unprepared. You don't know much about the company. You don't know anything about the people who are interviewing you. You don't really know much about the role and how to connect that with your skills, right? And communicate that. Also, maybe you get a job offer, but I hear many people don't even try and negotiate, right? Thus, you're leaving money on the table. And in fact, research suggests that in like negotiation situations, even in like the corporate world, that even seasoned executives, like 80% of them leave money on the table in many of their negotiations. So I don't know about you, but I didn't get taught any negotiation in engineering school. So if it's not something you've learned much of or practiced at all, then you're probably leaving money and opportunity on the table too. And over the course of your career, this can result in millions of dollars over the course of your career that you could lose. Okay, so don't let this be you. Okay, and if we can execute well, we can execute solidly, this is what can happen. You can make the most of every opportunity that comes your way. You're not going to leave these situations with feelings of regret. You're going to maximize this career transition as something that's not just good, but it's great, more towards the thriving, intentional, moving towards that life's work we talked about. right? So this is what we're really shooting for. And so, thinking about interviewing and negotiation skills on kind of a matrix, right? And a couple axes here, and think about like if you're high or low on either one of these or both of these skills, where might that land you, right? So looking at the different quadrants, I'm curious here, like obviously, if you're high on both, if you can be good on both, that's likely going to lead to career and financial growth. If you're low on both of them, then that could lead to minimal opportunities here, right? But if you are low on one of them, that might lead to you being underpaid or resentment, or have people feel like you're overqualified and you might be forced to take a step back because maybe your interview skills are low, but they see that you're worth a lot, but your interview skills are low. So I wouldn't want that to be you. So I'm just curious where you feel like you're at. So I'm going to go back here. We're going to do a quick chat. Again, just type in the number 1, 2, 3, or 4 for the quadrants there. Which quadrant do you feel like you find yourself in right now, if any of them, right? So I'm going to go here, type the number into the chat, and we'll do a countdown. Countdown in 3, 2, 1, go. Some people in 2, some people in 4. Okay. Yeah, a lot of 2 and 4, right? Which gives us an opportunity, and some people in 3, gives you an opportunity to say, okay, which piece or both do I need to shift and make sure to upgrade my skills and approach here? And I didn't see anyone in 1. So everyone's got something to work on here, which is great. It's not a huge problem. It's just an opportunity for you, right? Okay. So I just want to tell you a quick story about, I'll call him James. I changed his name here to protect his anonymity, but he was an experienced civil engineer. He was a professional engineer. He had big career goals. And he was in a company that he'd been with for a few years, but he had another company reach out to him with an opportunity that was exciting for him. He wanted to explore the opportunity and he wanted to negotiate while also making sure that if he was to make the transition, keep his relationships intact at his current company. He didn't want to burn any bridges, certainly. And so we adjusted his approach. We did some foundational work and got clear on what were those things that were most important to him. Because even in the negotiation stage, the career clarity and some of that stuff that we worked on earlier is still very important. Okay, because you got to figure out what's most important for you to negotiate. So, and then we put together a negotiation plan together. In the end, he accepted a new offer with a higher growth trajectory and an over $20,000 raise compared to what he was being paid previously, and 10% higher than he would have been paid that his original offer was. So significant increase. And we also worked on how to have those, hey, I'm leaving discussions to make sure he wasn't burning bridges and he kept those relationships intact. So this is just a very simple example. This is focused mostly on the work that he wanted to do around negotiation, preparation and everything. But the ROI was big for him, and he's much more satisfied as he moved forward here. Okay. All right. The final piece of our career success formula actually covers the entire thing, and I call it support. So you can move through kind of those 3 phases: foundation, strategy, execution. But the whole point is to not do this alone. So find some sort of community. Maybe these are people that you already know in your life, your family, your friends, and other communities you might be a part of. And also I've found that, I'm a little bit biased here, but getting some coaching and training and support, that's very specialized in this world can be extremely, extremely helpful. Okay. And we all need support in different things in our lives, right? We are social beings, whether us engineers want to admit it or not. Like we are, as humans, we need to connect with and feel like we are with other people. As technical professionals, often we can get stuck in our own heads and get into what I call analysis paralysis, right? We're trying to make those decisions and we just sort of go through these loops and never actually make progress. And being connected with others helps us have that shared experience, right? It also makes sure we have accountability so we're not staying stuck in these situations. And moving through career transformations and upgrades and stuff can often be exhausting and emotionally draining. And having support can help us do that. And I'm just a believer that almost nothing in life should be done completely alone. And so we just need people in our corner to help us and support us as we move through this. And this, career upgrades and transformation is no different. A few of my thoughts, if you are considering getting specified and specialized help in this, if you're looking for a mentor or coach in this world, make sure that you're working with and finding someone who's successfully helped others navigate through similar challenges to you. Maybe they have personal experience or in your industry or related industries that you're in. Ideally, you'd love them to have contacts that could that they'd be able to connect you with, get you some insider information and some increase your own network. And they're someone who's willing to actually give you the resources, time, and attention that you need to make sure you're not stuck. You should not be working with someone who has never worked with anyone on this sort of work, little to no experience in related industries to yours. Certainly don't want to be working with someone who has a network that's less influential than your own, or someone's just going to give you ideas and no help for implementation and really helping you through that process, right? So it's just some things to think about that hopefully are helpful for you. But as we look at this whole process, this whole formula and this model here, we've built up the foundation, and then on top of that, we're taking a strategic actions that are different than most people. We're maximizing our opportunities when we need to execute in interviews and negotiations, all supported by a community and also coach and accountability that can help us move through the process. And these are the things that I promise you, if you'll utilize the formula and these pieces here, things will accelerate for you, okay? So I want to ask you, I promised you at the beginning that I would give you clear actions and adjustments that you would need to make an intentional career transition or career upgrade. I'm curious, do you feel like I kept my promise? Let me know yes or no in the chat. I really care about this. I hope that some of the things that I shared with you are useful for you, right? But the question here also is like, are you all good from here? Like, is just the 40 minutes that we spent together or so everything you need? Well, the answer could be yes or no. I certainly didn't hold anything back from you, but to use an analogy in the investment world, Warren Buffett, one of the most rich people on the planet, could explain investing in one sentence, like buy low, sell high, and only invest in things you understand. I get that, but I'm not a multi-billionaire yet. But it's the details of how he does it and how we move through what we're doing here that really make all the difference, okay? And the people who succeed are the people who are committed to finding the answers, even if things aren't looking great or if there are challenges, even if they have to pay for it. That's what Jay did. We talked about him and James and others that we talked about here. So maybe just some things that you might still need to figure out beyond today, right? What direction do you really want to take your career if you're struggling with some of that career clarity work? How do you show your personal brand if you're having a hard time communicating some of those things? How do you craft that great resume and LinkedIn profile and really showcase who you are and the value that you bring? How do you get recruiters and hiring managers to talk to you instead of just ignoring you all the time? How do you get more interview opportunities if you're having a hard time with that? How to negotiate your offer when you get those opportunities, and how can you find the mentoring and support that you need? And perhaps anything else that you don't know yet, right? Like there's just so much to this process. So you can work on figuring this out yourself. Probably every question that you would want to have answered is on YouTube, or these days you can just ask ChatGPT if you want to, and see if you agree with what it says. Or I'd be happy to help you as well. I can show you the entire system that's helped many engineers and technology professionals like you get these career upgrades that are really exciting for them. And in fact, I recently ran the numbers of people who have worked with me in some of my programs that got new career opportunities. And on average, they get hired and get new opportunities 40% faster than the average person, okay? And they get increased compensation by 20, and sometimes people up to 100% doubling their compensation from where they were at before. And all in a way that's more aligned with their career foundation that we worked at. So it's not just more money and getting hired faster, but it's also more satisfaction that we're trying to shoot for along the way. Okay, so if you don't mind, I'll take just a few minutes here to describe what this would look like if you want to potentially take the opportunity to work with me, and all the things that are included. And then we'll have some time at the end to do some open Q&A, and I want to answer and give you any time that you need to answer any questions that you have about some of the things we talked about, okay? The program I've designed here is called the Engineering Career Accelerator. And it's designed to have a multimodal approach to help you move through the whole engineering career formula that we talked about today, from solidifying your mindset, getting your mind right, changing how you see people and how you see opportunities, working on career clarity, personal branding, identifying those core values and desires, exactly where you want to go in your career, and unleashing your potential. Move to kind of the strategic stuff and optimizing your approach to LinkedIn, building that personal brand, making it easy to do the things that are actually going to move the needle first, instead of wasting too much time, how to increase your connections quickly. I want to teach you how to rock your resume, make sure you stand out from the crowd, give you examples and templates and ways to easily customize it for every job that you're going to be applying for. I want to teach you how to do strategic networking, to focus on companies and people, not just job boards, cultivate those meaningful relationships and have awesome informational interviews and connecting conversations. I want to teach you to get into that execution space and own the interview, research appropriately, tell your story in a meaningful way, have the confidence through how you shine through, and negotiate with confidence. Learn how to do this and walk you step by step so that you can do this in your career, but also in other areas of your life as well. Okay. And this is mostly, there's a piece of digital training. All this could take you far on its own, but I want to give you even more to give you the community aspect. We have weekly career mastermind sessions. So these are typically 1-hour sessions on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Pacific or 7 o'clock Eastern time. And the goal here is to make sure that everyone gets that personalized help. No one feels stuck. Everyone there is actually helping to keep each other accountable, to help each other move through their transformations. And now I've got over 2 years of archives of these. You can even go look back on previous topics and things that I've talked about in previous sessions and discussions that we've had, if you want to go check some of those out. Okay. We have an online community that we do on LinkedIn. You get access to that. You can increase your network and you can help each other and connect with each other there. Okay. So there's 7 online modules. You get PDF guides and templates. You have the weekly career mastermind, 2 years of those archives, and the online community, and unlimited email support from me as you and I are working together as well. I put the asterisk because if you're sending me 10 emails a day, that might be a little bit excessive, but within reason, right? I'm here to help you. Okay. But also most people that I work with want to and need some extra one-on-one coaching, that personalized help to dial into, because your experience is different than the next person's. And so we get to do live coaching, continued email support, documentation reviews, whatever you need as you move through the process. I want to be there as your coach to help you through this. So there's an online portion, there's a community element, and you get one-on-one personalized attention as we work together. Now, people that I've worked with have gotten jobs at plenty of the large companies and smaller companies and startups and things. These are just a sampling here, that and across from government labs to defense to big tech to startups. No matter where you want to go, like I've worked with people who've probably gotten there, right? Here's a couple more bonus also inside the program. There's what I call the hiring insiders vault. So some exclusive interviews from hiring managers, HR managers, and others who have shared their insights on what does it look like on the inside when candidates are looking to apply and get jobs with them, right? You also have access to my network of almost 20,000 people that I'm connected with on LinkedIn and beyond, and personal relationships. I'm happy to give you introductions, right? Open doors. I've done this with many people, and sometimes that can make all the difference. And so, again, I want to go back to this kind of career level model and consider, like, wherever you're at, if you're a 1, 2, 3, or 4, what needs to happen to move you up at least one level or more, right? And if you feel like you can do this on your own, great. But I know that I can help you accelerate this process. And by the way, fast action bonus for you, and I rarely do this, but I know that many people are struggling with layoffs and other things. So I want to do this right now. I'm going to give a $500 scholarship for the next 5 people who join the program. For anyone who joins me with a program that includes one-on-one coaching. So if you feel this is right for you, and only if you know this is right for you, I want you to take me up on this opportunity to do this right now. Now, I want to give you the time to make the decision, talk to a spouse or partner, but I also want you to get started ASAP, because I've seen that people who take that action are the ones who get the best results, even if it feels uncomfortable, right? And hopefully this makes it a lot more affordable for you. But again, there are only a limited number of spots for that, so I want you to act. So you have a choice, right? I like to compare some of our physics laws. One of Newton's laws is that an object at rest will stay at rest unless it's acted upon by an outside force. So for whatever reason, if you feel at rest in your career, if you're out of a job or feeling stuck or feeling like you've got limited opportunities or all the headwinds are against you, or you just know you need to make a change, you can stay at rest, right? Or you can join the program. And I'd love to be that outside force to help you accelerate and upgrade your career right now. So here's what you need to do. Some of you I've talked to, but if you haven't talked to me, I'd love for you to go to morethaneng.com/schedule-call, right? And what we're going to do is set up a time to talk to me. We'll have a one-on-one chat. I want to discuss the program with you. I wanted to figure out where you're at and make sure this is a great fit. And we'll discuss your challenges and goals. And if we're a good fit, then we'll design, which package is right for you, for specifically for your needs, and we'll be able to move forward from there. Okay. Again, just a quick review of all the things you get: the modules, PDF guides and templates, weekly group coaching and career masterminds, that online community, unlimited email support, one-on-one coaching from me. Plus, you get access to my network. You get that hiring insiders vault. I've even created a personal development video playlist to help you continue to grow. And also for this limited time, you get that $500 scholarship if you do this quickly. So again, the people who've worked with me, 40% faster to landing those opportunities, increase of wages, all aligned with your career foundation. If this is what you want, then let's chat. Okay. So at this point, we're going to go into Q&A here, but if you watch this and you want to transform your career, it's something you need help with, then let's take advantage of this and all the content and bonuses and support and the one-on-one personalized coaching that I give you, and let's do it. Okay. So because the success principles is that you want to do what works, not what doesn't. So get that training support. And even if it's not from me, like find somewhere to get the support that you need, and just keep persevering. And I know it's hard and it's difficult. There's a lot of uncertainty in where all of you are at, but keep moving towards who you want to become, and I promise you'll be able to get there. So now a little time for Q&A. There's a QR code for that link if you want to schedule a call. If you haven't done that with me already, anyone who has talked to me, just reach out to me individually, and we can chat again if we need to, or just get started here. But want to give you some time for Q&A. If you have any questions, you can type them into the chat, or you can unmute as well. Let me know. I want to be here and answer any questions that you have. About your situation, where you're at, what you're trying to figure out, about the program. If you want to ask that, anything, I'm happy to answer here. I see a hand up from someone named iPhone, so I don't know who you are, but go ahead and unmute and tell us who you are and what your question is.
Yes, first of all, apologies about my lack of naming. The Zoom app, I'm still struggling with it a little bit, but my name is Mark. And first of all, I guess second of all, thanks for doing this. It's really informative webinar. I appreciate it.
Good.
I'm wondering what your opinion is on. I really like the second piece, your strategy piece that you talked about. Something that I'm really lacking on. Just one specific detail. What do you think is like the biggest impact that you see on LinkedIn profiles that could, shift that branding that you sort of talked about?
Yeah, so if you're talking about the biggest piece, if you do nothing else on LinkedIn, it's the stuff at the very top. your photo, your background photo, and like from a branding standpoint, your what's called your headline. Like by default, it says like current title at current job, like I'm an engineer at this company, right? But like if you if you do nothing else, update that stuff and update that headline with more relevant keywords to the types of jobs you're after, for the types of skills that you have and anything. And because that's what people see more than anything else on your LinkedIn profile. Like even if before they click on your profile, if LinkedIn will give you like, hey, here's a suggested person, they're going to see your name, your photo, and like that little bit of a headline, right? So if you update nothing else, probably it's the most important thing. But in less than 5 seconds, you want to make it very clear who you are and the kinds of skills and things that you can do there. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that is. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into a whole lot of other details, but you're asking low-hanging fruit, like that's the biggest piece. Okay. What other questions anyone have for me about the situation that you're in or anything that we can help with today?
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Nick.
So I loved what you were saying about, identifying companies that you want to work for and then reaching out to those individuals in those companies.
Yeah.
What I've found is when I'm trying to do that, mostly through LinkedIn, and I don't see a lot of traction there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Would you recommend, I've done the route of, physical drop-offs of resumes, trying to meet and greet. Should I also be doing, kind of calling the basic company phone and asking for so-and-so to then introduce myself? My thing is, I don't want to be a bother, but at the same time, like, one of these positions now is for a research institute, and I'm very motivated to get traction there. I just don't know how to.
Yeah. And recognize, Nick, and everyone, that you could do all the right things and still not get quite the result that you're looking for, right? So there's no guarantee that any one particular action that you take is going to work. And so there is still a little bit of a numbers game that you're playing when you're trying to connect with people, right? But I found that the numbers work out much better. Any extra level of personalized approach that you can take, right, versus just applying and hoping that they call you back and hoping that your resume is magical, right? Like you want to have a great ATS optimized resume. We can do that, right? That really showcases who you are. Yeah, so if you can, like if they're nearby and you can do a personalized drop off or connect with someone, like I'd say absolutely go for it, right? Why not? And go beyond just like who the recruiter is, right? But can you connect with other people in the company who might also have influence? Like if you're going for a research position, who are the other researchers? Like where you're looking for these informational interviews, you're not asking for them to like, hey, can you help me get this job? You're asking like, hey, it seems like some of the things you're doing are really cool from what I can tell. Can I just ask you some questions about it? So then you're just connecting with a person. You're not asking for anything other than a little bit of time. And certainly not everyone's going to say yes. Not everyone's willing to have a conversation with someone they've never met before. But the more personalized you can be into why you're reaching out to them and being genuine about the person, rather than trying to be about you and what you're trying to get out of them, the more likely you're going to be successful. Is that helpful?
Definitely. And thanks for tying it back into, not looking at the person as, a useful object, but, what you can give to them as well, just like your podcast. So appreciate it. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, sure, Nick. Let's chat again soon. All right. All right, definitely. Justin.
I just wanted to add to what you were saying and put a different, more brutal slant on it, which is stroke their ego, Nick. If you want 5 minutes of their time and they're an important person, do an hour of research and then be like, oh, I saw what you did with the landing of the Mars rover type of thing. I would love to hear how you got that idea. Like stroke their ego. And it's not if the number of messages I get that say, I'm looking for a job. I'm like, I don't care. Tell me stroke my ego. You look like you're doing something cool. Tell me. And then you start to pepper in your value as you talk to them, but make them feel good about themselves. They'll talk to you, more likely to talk to you.
Yeah. Great thoughts there, Justin. Thanks for adding that.
Thanks, Justin.
Richard, did you have a question there? Richard, it looks like you unmuted, but I can't hear you yet. So if you are talking.
Yeah, I had a quick
there you go.
question.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep, got it now.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned negotiation tactics. So when do you know when to stop negotiating?
When do you know when to stop negotiating? Help me have a little more context here, Richard.
So I'm currently in a negotiation right now, and it's they have come back with an offer, but when do you kind of figure like, okay, this is the end? They're not going to go any higher. It hasn't quite hit my price point, but I don't want to push them over the edge where they're just like, this guy is asking for too much money.
Yeah, so kind of general rule of thumb is like almost always you can get at least one round. Occasionally you can get 2 rounds, but rarely do you get 3 rounds of negotiation. Okay. So if you've gone through 1 round, you kind of went through that and they gave you a counter offer kind of a thing, then I'd say go ahead and try one more, right? Like if you're still not where you're at, and recognize that there's multiple levers to pull, things that might be important to you, and also what they might be able to give beyond pure compensation. Like the salary number in a job is usually like the big thing that most of us are trying to do. But maybe there's other ways we can get creative to get some of those things that you really care about. And that can be PTO, that can be other benefits. If it's a startup, maybe there's equity considerations, maybe there's bonus stuff. Maybe you can think about how you can look at getting an accelerated review process towards an accelerated promotion, because you feel like, okay, maybe they can't do something right now, but if you can come in and show that you can really knock it out of the park, maybe they're more willing to accelerate your promotion a little bit faster within a year, instead of waiting kind of a typical 2-3 years for promotion cycle kind of a thing, right? So, I mean, there's all sorts of, there's maybe other levers you can pull, but you want to try and get anything you can in writing. And obviously formally negotiate it if you can.
Perfect. Makes sense. Yep.
So give it a try, but get creative beyond just like, okay, this one number, let's just go back and forth in here, like see if there's other levers that you can pull on. That again, what you're trying to do in negotiation is understand where they're at and what their considerations are and the things they care about, and give them something that's more important to them, but less important to you. And exchange, get something that's more important to you and maybe less important to them, ideally. Then it turns into kind of a win-win.
Sure.
So hopefully that's helpful. All right. Any other questions or thoughts here for anyone here today? Happy to give you any time that you need. Okay. Well, I hope this is helpful for all of you. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate everyone who contributed and engaged and everything here. There will be a replay that I'll share with all of you. And let me know, like, again, if you want to have this call, I hope some people are scheduling calls with me to have this conversation. And if you have any questions, you can always just reach out to me via email or LinkedIn as well. I should be connected with most of you on LinkedIn if we're not already. But please reach out. I want to have these conversations and figure out how I can help you or connect you with other resources that might be helpful. And certainly, if anyone wants to, take that plunge and work with me deeply, I'd love to have that opportunity. It really is an honor to do that with people and be, I call it being on kind of having a front row seat to the success of other people is kind of the opportunity that I get with the work that I do. So I love doing it. And if you'd like my help to do that with you, then let's do it. Do it soon. So hope you all have a great rest of your day and a great weekend coming up. And we'll be in touch soon. Take care.
Great.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Jeff.
Jeff. Thanks, Jeff.
Jeff.